Brother Roop here. We are in Stephen's speech here in Acts chapter 7. Stephen is before the council giving a long speech on Jewish history and reminding the Jewish priests that God called their father Abram not out of Israel but out of Mesopotamia, hundreds of miles away, to show that God is international and not just in Israel. You know, Stephen was the first Christian apologist. He was also the first Christian martyr. So Stephen was a first of several things. One good, one maybe not so good. But in the middle of his speech, he says something kind of interesting, which I like to point out. In chapter 7, verse 38, it says, this is he, talking about Moses in his speech. He is Moses. This is he that was in the church in the wilderness with the angel which spoke unto him in the Mount Sinai, and with our fathers who received the lively oracles to give unto us. Oracles referring to the Ten Commandments. But Stephen says it was the church in the wilderness during the time of Moses. That's an interesting statement. He refers to the Israelites and Moses as a church, which I don't think the priest really appreciated. You know, like the Old Testament church, the church of the New Testament is in the wilderness. You know, it's a pilgrim church. We are a pilgrim church made of pilgrims in this world, far from the promised land. We read that in Hebrews chapter 11, verses 6 through 16. You know, our promised land is heaven. You know, back in the Old Testament, their promised land was a reference to Israel, which is their new home. But our promised land, we're pilgrims in this church, wandering to our promised land, which is heaven. You know, for this reason, we must never become too comfortable, because this world is not our home. We're just pilgrims in this home. We are in the wilderness. This world is our wilderness, and we're trying to make our way to our promised land, which is heaven. Amen.